locker room with all the sports news you need. Live.
Good afternoon. It's Friday afternoon. It's 5 o'clock. And no, I'm not Piers Morgan and I couldn't get Ronaldo. I am Graham Duffy. There's no Michael McEwen tonight, but I'm delighted to be joined by Mr. David Smith. David, how are you?
Aye, very well, thanks, Graham. Thankfully, there'll be no watchdog tonight because of what you just mentioned there. Piers Morgan and Michael McEwen can be very contentious individuals indeed, but we're fine with myself and yourself, Graham, so no watchdog required tonight.
Good stuff. We are on until 7 o'clock. We have a lot to get through, even though there's no Premiership football on, but we have 2 hours to go, so we'll manage to kill this somehow. So first of all, you can join us on YouTube. We are also live on Facebook and we're live on Twitter. So any comments you've got about what we're going to be talking about tonight, just let us know and we'll do our best to answer any questions you've got as well in relation to the football. We're going to start by looking back at Scotland in their friendly game against Turkey during the week. Scotland going down by 2-1. I mean, it was only a friendly, so I wasn't overly excited about it. I'll give you the team for the game. It was Craig Gordon in goal, Kieran Tierney, Grant Hanley, Jack Henry, Andy Robertson, Billy Gilmore, Scott McTominay, Ryan Fraser, John McGinn, Stuart Armstrong, and Lyndon Dykes. Dave, we went down by 2-1. A goal from Shabak and Under to make it 2-0. John McGinn got a goal back, his 15th goal for Scotland. What was your thoughts on the game? I mean, to be honest, that pitch was very poor. The weather wasn't great. What was your thoughts on the game overall?
Yeah, to answer your question. We're just going to be, I don't know if you're before Ian, but nice to meet you. We're only going to be on a Friday from 5 till 7. The idea is that we'll speak about, obviously, the goings on. Obviously, Scotland are in the World Cup this year. But the plan is that we'll speak about general football. We'll speak about all levels of Scottish football. We'll speak about Scottish sport. Obviously, rugby. Scotland's playing in rugby tomorrow against Argentina, I think it is. I might be wrong on that part. But yeah, we're going to speak about everything. I'm going to the boxing. I'm going to boxing next Saturday night, so I'm gonna give my good mate a good mention in that because I'm going up to see his fight next Saturday night. I don't know if he's playing. I'll go and ask him actually, but yeah, we'll be covering different sports to obviously cooperate with no football in Scotland. Pardon me, I'm bapping away here. Sorry. We're going to be speaking about other sports so we can obviously compensate for no Scottish Premiership football this weekend. But your question, first of all, this was a needless game for Scotland. This was a dead rubber. A lot of people were screaming out for the fact that why was there not a lot more rookies involved? Rookies as in players that could potentially have been called up or players that could potentially be called up down the line. And there's a lot of clamour for obviously Craig Gordon not getting a game. Craig Gordon potentially not getting a game because obviously this looks like being Craig Gordon's last year at both club and international level because by all accounts he's looking as old. So it was an opportunity for Scotland to play Robbie McCrory. They didn't do that, but if we're going to look at if I look at the start delivered to start things off with, that was to try and because of the size of the game, because of the caliber of the game, it was Steve Clark here. I'm still here. I don't know what the problem is tonight. We've had this since I came on at 5 to 5. Yeah. I don't know what the I don't know what the problem is, but yeah, I got slaughtered by a mate because I went and said in my report card for Scotland in 2022 that I thought they were a D. Now he thought I was speaking absolute rubbish and thought I should went for C or B minus, thinking why would I do that? And then I was listening to his voice note because we do a lot of voice notes in our group chat, and I totally forgot that Scotland had qualified to Group A in the Nations League. So all in all, game, it's not been a bad year for Scotland. It's been a good year for our country. maybe the disappointment not getting to Qatar has been a little bit disappointing, because let's be honest, we'd rather be sitting in our comfy seats right now speaking about obviously rather be in our comfy seats right now speaking about us going to Qatar on Sunday, perhaps playing one of the countries on Sunday or Monday, rather than obviously speaking about this friendly past on Wednesday there. So majorly disappointing, but at exactly the same time, a lot to learn as well. It was great to see, from an Aberdeen point of view, it was great to see like Sir Calvin Ramsey playing. Great to see Lewis Ferguson get minutes. Lewis Ferguson's doing tremendously well over in Italy right now. I think Juventus are keeping tabs of him, if I'm not mistaken, which is impressive considering Lewis Ferguson was battered out of Pittodrie last season, if that's a good word to put it. And yeah, I mean, it was good for Dykes to score, and positives, but then negatives that get beat as well.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. It was a pointless game, and I think that first half you could kind of tell that the players weren't really up for it. I think just looking at the game overall, the goal that we lost, the first goal from Ozan Chabak, it's very poor defending from Scotland. It's a set piece, and he'd had two sighters before that. He hit the bar previously to that. It's poor defending from Scotland. And the second goal I want to touch on. Now, I don't want to have a go at the guy, but for me, Stuart Armstrong on a Scotland shirt hasn't done enough for me. That goal comes from him. Now, John McGinn wins the ball, gives it to Armstrong. Armstrong drives on. He's got a pass to his left for Andy Robertson. He loses the ball, and Turkey score. Now, again, I don't want to be harsh on the guy, but what's your thoughts on Stuart Armstrong in a Scotland shirt? Because for Southampton, he's actually been quite good.
I think he's a better player for club than he is for country, if I'm going to be honest with you, Graham. You only need to look back at the England game, and he's everybody's worst critic. As a great opportunity to win the game against your old rivals. And he passes the ball to, was it Harry Kane? And then Harry Kane goes and bangs it home to a piece. Pardon me. And yeah, when you look at that, I mean, a lot of Scotland fans will remember him specifically for that moment. I think he's a creative player, Stuart Armstrong, but I think Southampton and Scotland play two different styles, and I think that is evident because when he plays for Southampton, obviously they play a forward. Ralph Hasenhüttl is away now, obviously, but they play a forward-thinking style, or they always like to get forward. It was an Austrian philosophy he played, and you could tell because you got Armstrong involved a lot. For Scotland, he's a lot more deeper, and I think that for me, I'd have Armstrong far higher up the park than he is. He obviously gets into good areas, but he isn't effective enough in the final third, I don't think. He scored some important goals for Scotland 100%, but I don't think he's effective enough as well. And that's exactly where people's problems lie with Stuart Armstrong. There is room for improvement, but at exactly the same time, people look at Stuart Armstrong and say, right, can he improve? Can he improve? Can he get into good areas? And there's a lot of way bits of this play that he can improve in Scotland. But you've got to remember here, Stuart Armstrong is a great. This year, the last few years in a Scotland shirt, being one of these players that's remembering mistake. I was waiting to say. By the way, if you're listening to this, because on StreamYard they pop it up, keeps like buffering. So we do very much apologise for if you're listening on the radio and you don't hear it or you wonder what the hell was said. What we're saying is because we're buffering
So I think it's only me that's here just now. Feed the Bear says, evening, gents. Good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. I've seen your name on a few things before. I think I saw you on one of the things yesterday on iWrite as well, so it was good to see you on that as well. But just looking back at Scotland, it wasn't a great performance. I didn't think Scotland played particularly well. There were maybe a few positives. Again, John McGinn. I think a lot of folk look at Kieran Tierney and think he's probably Scotland's best player, most important player. You look at Craig Gordon, who, again, on Wednesday actually made some decent saves. For me, I think John McGinn might be Scotland's most important player. That was his 15th goal for Scotland, which is incredible. I think we might have Dave back, hopefully. He's just trying to get on here. I don't know what's happening here today, but hopefully Dave's back with us. See, I don't know if it's me or if it's Dave that's got the problem here. Hopefully Dave is back. Is Dave back?
Hi, Graham.
Dave's back. Can you hear me?
But we both seem to be bothered.
I don't know what's happening with this system today. It's Feed the Bear saying signal is bad, Big Dave. So just basically in terms of Scotland, I was just talking before you came back on there that for me, I think John McGinn may be Scotland's best and most important player. That was his 15th goal for Scotland, which is incredible. It's a great finish. Now, I just spoke about the fact that I think Kieran Tierney, a lot of folk think is Scotland's best player, and he's up there. But for me, John McGinn in a Scotland shirt has been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's been absolutely brilliant in a Scotland shirt. And when you think about it, he's just been brilliant, isn't he? I mean, the fact we've dropped and changed our midfield, especially in the midfield area. The fact that John McGinn in particular has been a mainstay. I mean, I hate comparing here, sorry, Graham. But you look at Carl McGregor, not been a regular. You look at Armstrong, not been a regular. You look at Billy Gilmore, not been a regular. You look at Ryan Jack, not been a regular. The fact that John McGinn can be in that team game by game by game is testament to fitness levels, testament to football ability, of course, and also testament to the fact that he's been a great stalwart for our country. And let's be honest, when we speak about Hall of Fames in 20, 30 years' time, Graham, and John McGinn will be in it, alongside, I predict, Craig Gordon.
Yeah, 100%. You spoke about him earlier on. Calvin Ramsey came on in the 46th minute. I mean, it was only a friendly. How do you think Ramsey did in the time that he was on?
Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah, sorry, I was coughing there. I think he did okay. I mean, he's got off to a slow start. Well, I think he's got off to a slow start because people forget he's only 18-year-old. I mean, he was a youth footballing prodigy prior to breaking into the first team at Aberdeen. And it was Stephen Glass that gave him his chance in the first team at Aberdeen. And then a very good season at Pittodrie has led him on his move to Liverpool. And he was never going to break the mould of Trent Alexander-Arnold. If it's because of Trent Alexander-Arnold, TA having inconsistent performances and also injuries, it's allowed Calvin Ramsey a chance in the Liverpool team. Obviously got a place in the Carabao Cup when they played Derby and did very, very well in that game against Derby. And he's done well for the under 23s, they call it in England. He's been scoring against like Accrington Stanley and all that, which is quite good going considering like obviously established League One opponents and all that. But for Scotland, he did well. It was good for Calvin Ramsey to get minutes, I think, considering it was his first time in the squad, and he took it in the stride. I was reading an article. Who was that? I think it might have been one of the Aberdeen coaches' Twitters, actually, about the fact he's a level-headed figure. Also, alongside that, he's quite a respectful guy. So he'll know that there'll be players he'll be better than. But he's very respectful about the fact that he's better than some of the players questioned. I mean, he's probably played with some of the players that are now playing in boys' club football or street football and all that kind of things, and he's a lot better than those type of players. So that's quite good going, and one may continue for Calvin Ramsey.
Yeah, I think Ramsey's done a really good job so far. I think he probably will play more of the cup games for Liverpool. In terms of Lewis Ferguson, he only got 11 minutes. Again, there wasn't a lot he could do in that time. I know that any cap is important. Do you think Ferguson would be disappointed they only got 11 minutes?
Probably, considering the fact that obviously Lewis Ferguson is trying to break into the Scotland side, but as we've spoken about, the midfield area is the hardest part to break into the Scotland side because you look at the fact that we've had so much midfielders and the fact that midfielders can't get in consistently. And that's testament to obviously the quality we have because Stevie Clark's biggest headache is when Scotland get beat and he's trying to figure out what five is going to that midfield setup because it's that much, it's that what's the right word? It's that congested, it's that saturated, and it's that busy, and that's the thing. He needs to kind of watch where he's evolving everything. So from that point of view, it could be incredibly frustrating from that perspective, and he'll be keen to make sure that he'll be keen to get more games. And if he continues the fine performances he is in Italy, he'll be back playing no problem at all in a Scotland jersey.
Someone else that only got 11 minutes I want to ask you about is Jacob Brown. Now, he came in at the squad a while ago. He's not had a lot of game time. He's something a bit different. He's got pace, but he's not really shown a lot so far. Again, was this, you spoke about it earlier on, was this not the kind of game in a friendly that you'd start him and see how he gets on?
Yeah, I would, because we've not got to see much of him. Because of the former Dykes, Shea Adams, and other Ryan Christian and Armstrong to an extent as well. So I'd have liked to have seen more opportunity of him. I mean, this was all my dead rubber. I'd have liked us to have played a weekend side and got beat 4-0 because it'd have gave us an idea to see what we were going to be all about with fringe players that could potentially step up moving forward. I know he's not played too much for Brighton, but I'd have liked to have seen Billy Goss as well, because this was the ideal game for him to get 90 minutes into him and build up his fitness again, because this was a friendly, right? I repeat, a friendly, right? This was an opportunity for players that potentially have a chance to mould into the Scotland squad in the next 4 or 5 years to get 90 minutes under their belt and try and encourage Steve Clark that I'm part of their plans moving forward. And he tried to get the balance right, or he tried to overbalance it. I think he tried to trust it, but he also tried to get players in he feels will get a chance in the next 2 or 3 years. And I think he overbalanced it far too much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one to be critical of Steve Clark. I think he's done a really good job. I personally would have played a few more fringe players. I'd have liked to see like a Lawrence Shankland in there. And again, the one thing I don't understand as well is having 2 goalkeepers on the bench. I mean, I just don't understand why you would bother with that in a friendly game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, somebody touched on it on Twitter, a journalist from the Herald, and they were like, and it was like, nice for Liam Kelly and Robbie McCrory to get a wee trip away to Turkey, yeah? Because that's ultimately what it was. It was a holiday. Well, a goalkeeper training holiday, but it was a holiday. And I'd have liked to have seen more action. Even if it involved 2 games for players, I wouldn't have been too problematic about that. I'd have actually encouraged Scotland to have played 2 games. Maybe 1 game on a Wednesday, and then 1 game not far from Turkey on the Thursday, where you play a different side, where you don't play the same players, but you play a different side. And by the way, I'm just going to add a Penningsworth here. I think Arch Postecoglou did the right thing by Celtic not allowing players to go over there when they played Sydney yesterday, and they've got another game over the coming days. I think Arch Postecoglou did the right thing, because ultimately it'd have been more efficient from his point of view than it would have been for Scotland.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because I did want to touch on that. Now, there was a lot of, like Steve Clark had mentioned the fact that Celtic didn't let those 3 players go. I agree with you. I think he was right, and I think that game showed exactly why Postecoglou was right not to let his players go.
Yeah, because, I mean, I think the last thing Ange Postecoglou would have been wanting is for players to be sitting on the bench, or indeed players to be getting injuries, or even worse, being involved in a game that has no real meaning unless they're they've got a psychological part to play or an immune part to play in the team. And I think Arch did the right thing. And ultimately, some of the players got a good run out yesterday against Sydney. Ultimately, Celtic got beaten that game in question, but Ange Postecoglou would have had the same mindset. It's only friendly. And Carl McGregor, great to see him back training. I don't know if he actually played at all yesterday, but I know he warmed up with the team, and great to see because it was absolutely impressive. And he's an impressive player for Celtic, and I think the layoff done him the world of good. But I'll make a note as well. I think the layoff from Carl McGregor since Celtic the world of good because Celtic have been consistent and built up a lot of momentum since Carl McGregor's been injured as well.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the under 21 game the other night, but for me, and I know it's early days, but Ben Doak at 17 is going to be some player. I mean, that boy is so talented. I don't know if you've seen much of Ben Doak, but he is so talented.
Yeah, I've seen videos of Ben Doak on Twitter, and mate, I don't know if you agree with me here. I'd have had him in the first team squad last night on Wednesday.
Yeah,
sorry,
I was thinking that as well.
I just think it would have been a good experience for him, and I'd have been a big believer of bringing players in from the youth setup into the first team just for that experience. Yeah, you'd have been looking at it from the outside, looking in and going, why in the hell are we bringing in this 17-year-old or 16-year-old or 18-year-old or 19-year-old, vice versa? But irrespective, it's good experience for these players, and that's the good thing to come out of it. But exactly the same time as well, you look at it, right, and I mean, 21s. Great to see Max Johnston scoring last night because I watched him for COVID at Broth last Saturday and he was really, really good. And funnily enough, I seen Richard Gordon, who's the Cove Rangers media guy, basically media communications guy. The guy from the Press and Journal was wanting an interview with the goal scorer, Blair Yule, at the game. And he was like, Jamie, come here. By the way, I'm trying to play Chinese whispers here. So I know exactly what that conversation was now. It's Max Johnston is going to the Scotland squad. Here's your exclusive.
Nice. Do you think that the likes of even like Alec Lowry could have been in that Scotland squad? The main squad?
Yeah, I think somebody actually suggested that, actually. I mean, Alex always had his nasty looking injury as a result of that the Barton challenge, but at exactly the same time, he's bounced back from that. And we're talking yet again, Graham, experience. It'd have been great experience for someone like Alex Lowry to go across and get that chance. But from a Celtic point of view, because we're obviously not going to speak much about the Celtic Sydney game, it was great to see, and I know Feed the Bear will probably be interested in this as well. It was great to see three youngsters on the bench: Johnston, Lawwell, and I've forgotten the other son, but it begins with I. But great to see Celtic molding youngsters and having them inherited. I mean, ultimately, they're not going to play much over down under, but for them to get that experience with the first team will do them the world of good for go back to playing with the kids again. And that's exactly what it has to be moving forward now. I think this was a missed opportunity in certain aspects for Scotland where we could have had a few more kids. Because if we played kids and got beat 4-0, I'd have been looking at that and saying, right, beat 4-0, but we had two 17-year-olds, two 18-year-olds. You hear managers at club level all the time, Graham, going, let's say they're in a precarious position or things aren't going well or they're under no pressure and all that kind of stuff, which is, let's be honest, is a pressure in football is something that's very seldom nowadays, especially with social media. But if we got a situation where a manager had 3 games to go and had relegation or was relegation threatened and fielded 3 17-year-olds, 3 18-year-olds, and 1 19-year-old, we'd all be praising from the heavens. That's exactly what Scotland should have done, in my honest opinion.
I agree, and I'm really impressed with the fact I managed to get 24 minutes talking about a Scotland friendly. Delighted with that. Feed the Bear says, never seen the game, Dave. Might stay up and watch the Everton game. Oh yeah, because Celtic have got Everton as well, haven't they? Could be a decent game.
I'll need to check that, like through the night or something, I bet you.
Could be a decent game, that. Celtic probably win that because Everton are awful. I've seen them a few times, they're terrible.
Well, it's funny because Ange Postecoglou was shouting for the Everton job, was he not?
I think he's been taken for a few jobs, to be fair. But he wouldn't leave Celtic now. He's quite happy there, I think. We will get to other discussions very, very shortly, but I want to talk because Dave's not been here the last couple of weeks. I want to touch on VAR because this has been a massive, massive talking point, not just on this show, but on other shows and between me and my mates as well. We've had discussions about this all week. Now we go back to, the thing for me that is the most frustrating thing, again, something that needs to get sorted out straight away for me as break, is the handball rule. Now, we have seen plenty of decisions that for me have been very, very wrong. Now, I'll give you a couple of things here. The fact that I wrote this down actually. Before VAR came in, there were 17 penalties given in 63 games. Since VAR came in, there's been 30 games and 19 penalties given. Now, you could go back through pretty much every game and say that's not a penalty, but there's other ones that should be penalties. So, 30 games in, Dave, I want to get your thoughts so far on how you think VAR is working and what you would change at the moment, because I think there's quite a few things that need to be changed.
Well, I'll start off at my beloved Aberdeen a fortnight ago. And that was for Aberdeen against Hibs. A 5-minute delay before half-time for Duke's penalty, which Miovski eventually converted. I'll give you a run of this. Duke gets fouled by goalkeeper. Potential check for offside. Tick. Potential check for penalty. Tick. After 4 minutes, I may add. Penalty by Miovski. Saved by the goalkeeper. Nobody protests about Hibs goalkeeper having foot off line or anything. Play goes on. Ball gets to the middle of the park. Boo! Penalty! Miovski converts 1-0 Aberdeen. And yes, where was I going in the Saturday? I was going up to Forfar. And I was watching the LA night because I was going up to Forfar on the Saturday. And I was like, come on, referee. It was that bad. I had to leave with 3 minutes to go because I was wanting a good sleep before football on the Saturday. But anyway, there was that. And then there's been plenty of other incidents we've seen on the telly. Even the Hibs goal at Pittodrie, was a little bit contentious just in regards to the timing and things like that. And it didn't sit well with me. And we've seen incidents. I was obviously watching the Hearts Motherwell game alongside winding you and Michael up last Sunday. Not Sunday previously, but Sunday before that, where Hearts were playing Motherwell. And there was a lot of contentious decisions in that game as well, where we looked at and go, could it not? And what a frantic game it was, but at the same time, not without nail biting at exactly the same time. These clear and obvious things have to be clear and obvious, I think, right? When it's not, there's no point in doing it. For me, it's got to be clear and obvious. Crawford Allen had told the media at the Baillieston Blazers, it's got to be clear and obvious. There's been very little occasions where it's been clear and obvious. Very little. If it's stonewall, blah, 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 fair enough. And by the way, Dick Campbell, I'll go back on this in a minute, but Dick Campbell would have loved VAR last weekend because there was three penalty claims last week, 2 for Broth, 1 for Cove. Jim McIntyre admitted it himself after the game that he couldn't understand what referee Chris Graham was getting up to. And by the way, Chris Graham and Jim McIntyre have previous history because it was Chris Graham's misdemeanours that slipped Cove Rangers a 4-1 lead at Hamilton a few weeks prior to that. And I've seen Chris Graham and Jim McIntyre having a good 5-minute discussion before the game last Saturday, which tells you everything you need to know. By the way, I am not wanting VAR in the Championship. I'll deal every day of the week with managers telling me in the Championship post-match that referee is rubbish and referee is PISH. That'll do for me. But yeah, when you look back at the Premiership, that's all we're speaking about just now, Graham. All we're speaking about is the fact that in post-match interviews, with the exception of 2 or 3, every manager or every game were highlighting VAR decisions. But then my big rant to this, I'm not a big ranter, but I'll give you a rant. My rant is, and it's a small one, if we're relying on VAR for these things, does it not question the standard of the referees or the officials? Yes, we've spoken about obviously that for a long time. But I think this deepens the pitifulness of our officials.
Yeah, I mean, you've just got to look back to last week. And me and Michael spoke about this at the time, but you look at that Matt O'Reilly handball against Ross County. What can Matt O'Reilly do in that situation? And how the VAR guy has said to the referee, go and look at the monitor, and the referee's actually given that penalty is an absolute joke. And again, I said it at the time, there's two in that Hearts game for me that should have potentially been penalties. I don't even think they were checked. Now, Feed the Bear says if there's no movement from the player or it's ball straight to hand, the referee should use common knowledge and say it's no penalty. It's out of control now. And it is. But
exactly. Sorry, I'll go back to you in a minute. Exactly. You think the Wales and the Blazers would understand that? Mm-hmm. You'd think they'd understand that.
But the thing that's frustrating me is you're seeing some referees giving handballs and other referees not. This is the thing that's annoying me is the fact that there's no consistency. Again, you look at the one that Celtic, I think it was Dundee United, when the ball hits Bernabe's hand, he's got his back to the game. Again, how can that be a penalty? It's getting ridiculous now. And like you said, every manager now, Robin Nielsen came out after the game last week and said that nobody had a clue what was going on. That's an absolute joke.
It's been a few weeks now, but great point here by Feed the Bear, because as soon as that comment came up, it actually came to my mind about Tony Watt and the fact that Liam Fox went and said to Jay Lewis post-match about the fact that they had better camera angles. Dundee United had better camera angles. And the fact that Tony Watt won his appeal and got to play against his beloved Celtic told you everything you need to know about the fact that VAR is just nowhere near good enough in Scottish football at this precise moment in time.
See, for me as well, I mean, I don't know this obviously, but do you think that some referees aren't giving certain decisions on the pitch because they think that VAR is going to intervene anyway and help them out? And that's not the way it should be. It's meant to be there for clean, obvious errors.
Well, that's a mentality now. Jesus Christ, that's all I'm saying. I mean, I think the referees should focus on themselves. I mean, I seen a group of referees on Tuesday, and I'd have loved to have asked them what goes through your mind. What goes through your mind when you referee in Scottish Premiership matches? But we'll never get the further truth, I don't think. And it's going to be frustrating for managers. And let's be honest, a VAR decision could go a long way to dictating whether your club gets £200,000 a season. For example, a Livingston, a St Mirren, a Ross County, a Dundee United, those type of so-called smaller teams.
This is what I said to Michael last week. This is the same kind of point I made last week, that this is going to cost teams. I mean, probably won't cost Celtic a right to win the league, but this could potentially cost teams a top 6 place. It could cost teams getting relegated. You've got to get these big decisions right. And again, you've mentioned it as well. The time it takes. That Hearts game last week, there was 7 minutes added on, and that was all to do with VAR. That's, for me, ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. And, I mean, if the clubs were good, the referees would absolutely slaughter the clubs. The referees would absolutely slaughter the clubs. But save the media, the clubs, the supporters, Scottish football authorities, and people out with the refereeing association were given a vote, VAR, yes or no. I'd rather go for the latter. Now, I think, well, there's room for improvement, 100%. But at exactly the same time, I think we've seen enough evidence within the last 3 or 4 weeks to tell us that VAR quite simply isn't viable in Scotland.
Do you think one of the biggest issues is the fact that it's been brought in halfway through a season? See, if you bring this in at the start of the season, everyone knows what's happening. But the fact it's been brought in halfway through a season is just making it worse.
Yeah, well, that's where people were moaning, because it was because it was brought in before Halloween, and boy, have we been tricked. And yeah, it's just been horrendous, dreadful. And Aye, I'm interested to see how this evolves beyond Christmas. I think it's a massive 4 weeks for SFA because I think they'll get feedback. I think they'll get feedback from clubs, and I think clubs are sharing their concerns. I think the clubs will be sharing their concerns, saying, "Look, this could be improved. This could be better." And I can see clubs saying something about it. Yeah, I hope there's a lot of wee manoeuvrements, but I doubt there will be.
In a few weeks' time, there's a Celtic Rangers game and a Hearts v Hibs game. Can you imagine VAR in both these games the way it is just now?
It's in both those games are a New Year, are they?
Yeah.
Which could be a happy New Year, could it? Yeah, that for me is where it's going to get interesting because you've got 2 high-profile games. Now, every game of Scottish football or Scottish Premiership is high-profile in its own what will be examinations. But when you look at Celtic Rangers, that's Glasgow Derby. It's 2 of the best teams in Scottish football. Hearts against Hibs, arguably third best team against the Hibs side that would love to be within the mix, and the Hibs side, that have aspirations of European football. And any contentious or mishaps in that game, and you could be wondering, what's going to happen here? So we have a lot on our plate, that's for sure.
I listened to David Martindale this week after the Hearts game, and I agreed to quite a lot of what he said. And I think in the build-up to the Hearts goal, Alan Forrest does handle it. There's no doubt about that. I'm not going to be biased and say he didn't, because he did. That clearly, whether it was checked, I don't know. But he had a lot of valid points. And I actually spoke to a mate that was at the game, and he said that you look to the monitor, and all it says on the top corner in the Hearts Stadium is checking for potential whatever it is. You obviously don't see the incident. You only see what's written on that screen. So folk don't have a clue what's happening. And it just takes so much.
Because I was at Batodry, and when the Duke penalty incident happened, I was at the main stand, and the hospitality suite was up the stairs. Not up the stairs, but you could see the hospitality suite as long as the windows weren't shut for beer drinking or whatever have you. So they had the hospitality area. And when that happened, I looked to see if there was potential camera footage. None. It was basically showing the incident back, but there was no transparency with the referee. There was no looking at VAR and seeing what could happen, what could not happen. I might be horribly wrong here. Is there not a league across the world? I don't think it's England. Is it not Australia where you get told everything that's going to be happening when there's VAR? Is it Australia?
I think it might be, yeah.
It's Australia or America. I'd love to see something like that in Scotland. I think everybody would get a better understanding of that. But it's Scottish football, I suppose.
Yeah, very, very true. So no doubt we will come back to VAR at a very later date, hopefully, because the World Cup's on, so we're not going to worry about that. But let's talk about the Premier League, and I want to touch on your team, Aberdeen, because I've put in the wee thing at the bottom there. Can Aberdeen finish second? Now, they're only 8 points off Rangers. It doesn't seem a lot, but they do have Celtic and Rangers to come. Dave, I want to get your thoughts on Aberdeen so far this season, your thoughts on Jim Goodwin, and again, something I want to touch on as well. I took a note of this. Aberdeen at home this season, so there've been 15 games played. Aberdeen have played at home. They've played 7. They've won 6, drawn none, lost 1. They've scored 22 and they've conceded 6. Away from home, they've played 8. They've only won 2. They've drawn 1, lost 5, only scored 6 and conceded 17. So I'm guessing if you're Jim Goodwin, the away form has got to be a very big concern.
Yeah, and it's somebody who's acknowledged. He's acknowledged the fact that the away form quite simply hasn't been good enough from Aberdeen's point of view. He's been the first to admit it, because we've had 3 against Livingston, 4 against Dundee United. Rangers and Celtic was disappointing showings also. And can Aberdeen finish second? I think we get a better understanding of how Aberdeen's season is going to evolve by Christmas time, because they've got Rangers and Celtic back to back. Bo, both at Pittodrie, which Aberdeen is notoriously a tough place for Rangers and Celtic to go. And that, for me, is going to be a sign of Aberdeen's credentials, Aberdeen's bottle mentality, and God, excuse me, pardon me, and also their ability to strike it against the better sides.
I mean, I'm looking at Aberdeen's next 4 fixtures. I wrote them down, actually. They've got Celtic at home, Rangers at home, St Mirren away, and Kilmarnock away. I mean, Aberdeen at home are just a completely different animal. They look so good at home. I mean, what do you think the problem is when they go away from home?
So that should be better. Pardon me. Yeah. I think it's because of the way they're set up away from home in comparison to home. When they're at Pittodrie, they're set up to be in the front foot, which can come at a cost because, as Aberdeen fans will touch on, they can't play the ball from the back too much, and it can have consequences because opposition sides will try and conjure up opportunities. I think they play similarly away from home as well, but I think because sides are set up better at home, I think sides can adapt to that a little bit better now. So I think that's where Aberdeen's problems have been. There's been times, where they've been not great, but they've came up with wins or draws or got positive results out of it. But there's also been times where you've looked at them and went room for improvement. And from an Aberdeen point of view, they can look at this and say, right, where can we improve away from home? And I think the trip to Atlanta will do the club the world again because it gives Aberdeen that opportunity to see where they could be better and what they could do away from home. Ultimately, it was a week in which to unwind, but at exactly the same time, I'm pretty sure there'd have been a lot of tactical mouse going on as well. So, yeah, I'm hoping this week was an influential week from an Aberdeen point of view. I'm pretty sure it was.
That game against United last week, I actually thought United played some decent stuff, especially the second half. Fletcher misses a couple of great chances. Glenn Middleton misses a couple of great chances. I mean, Aberdeen kind of ground that out. How important do you think that was that they managed to win that game going into this break?
Yeah, very much so. It was an important win from an Aberdeen point of view. United did have their own chances, but from an Aberdeen point of view, it was about getting the 3 points and delivered. A strong crowd to be had as well. A very good buzz at Pittodrie. It was exactly the same when they played Hibs as well. That was the noisiest I've seen Pittodrie in a long time. That was very good. And it's good to see the Red Army or Aberdeen fans back in Aberdeen again. Long gone the days that we've had 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17,000 people coming in. And it was a strong attempt from an Aberdeen point of view. That needs to be the benchmark, I think, moving forward, because if we can keep those attendances, it'll do the club the world of good.
Do you think the 6 o'clock kickoff's the right way to go?
It appears to be. Obviously, they played Hibs at 7:45 a fortnight ago on Friday, and then obviously they played Dundee United at 6 o'clock last Saturday, and both got very strong attendances, and I think that's a good thing. Obviously, it kind of helps because a lot of people might be suited to more alcohol-oriented activities at that time of night this Saturday, so it was good. I think it was a good one. I think it was good. Dundee United fans were complaining about getting held back at Pittodrie, which I can understand, but I can see why Police Scotland have done it, because there was trouble after the Aberdeen Hibs game on one of the streets in the city centre, and I can understand why the police did it. Dundee United fans have every right to complain, and I've seen Hillsborough getting chanted. Now, from footage I've seen, there was areas in which could be rectified by the club or the police, but exactly the same time, I would be agreeing with what the club are doing. But I don't agree. I think the Hillsborough terminology is a bit too much.
Yeah, Dave, that's something that's annoyed me for years when Man United fans and that start singing that stuff, because I'm a Liverpool fan, and that was just a horrendous thing. So to hear that, it's disappointing. But in terms of Aberdeen, I mean, obviously they've got 2 massive games coming up against Celtic and Rangers. How important do you think it is that Aberdeen can maybe make a statement if they can get something out of these games?
Well, this is where Derek McInnes went horribly wrong as Aberdeen manager. or in some people's eyes, horribly wrong as Aberdeen manager. Yeah, because did well season upon season with poor resources, good budgets, but nowhere near the level of Celtic and Rangers. And season upon season, guided Aberdeen either second or third, obviously with Rangers out of the league for a specific period of time for well documented reasons, but at exactly the same time as well. You look at this tenure under Goodwin, and if Goodwin can get, I'm just trying to count it up here. If Goodwin can get 15 points out of 30 against Celtic and Rangers, season upon season, or even 12, I think that would be success upon Aberdeen fans alongside winning cups. I think he's achieved one objective of reaching the semi-final of the Premier Sports Cup, but I think the upcoming games gives us a good opportunity to see where Aberdeen are at right now, and also see how Aberdeen can take the game to Celtic and Rangers and try and get some wins. And then obviously, if Aberdeen gets a result against Rangers, that's a perfect springboard for the January semi-final at Hampden, because Rangers are definitely taken. They're in a great position under Gervais Van Bronckhorst. It looks like he'll keep his job at Ibrox, which could be very interesting to say the least. And let's be honest, Rangers have a big AGM coming up, and that's interesting as well. But from an Aberdeen point of view, they'll take care of themselves. They've got a good run of games coming up, and if they can get 7 points, for example, over a Christmas period, that'd be some going for Aberdeen.
I'll come on to Rangers in a second. I want to ask you about that. Feed the Bear says, do I think Liverpool will beat Madrid? Do you know what? Liverpool are very much a Champions League team. We tend to do quite well on this, but unfortunately, our record against Madrid isn't great. We lost the Champions League final to them last season. If I'm going to be honest, at the moment, the way we're playing, I don't think so. I think Madrid have just got a bit too much going forward for me. Vinicius Junior, Benzema. Liverpool defensively are not great. We've had a very poor season against Southampton, to be honest, last week. Although we won 3-1, Southampton had 2 or 3 great chances that Alisson saved. So I just think Madrid might be a bit too strong for us. I hope we do win, but I think Madrid will be too strong for us over the 2 games. So I don't think we'll beat Madrid. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think we will. Just in terms of Aberdeen, obviously the headlines will be about Majowski, who's been great. I think Duke's been great. But for me, the player that I really like is Leighton Clarkson. Now, if Aberdeen could, do you think he's a signing that could be getting permanently made?
I think so. I mean, Leighton Clarkson did tremendously well for Aberdeen at the start of the season. Scored a terrific free kick against St Johnstone to win the game for Aberdeen. Has put in some very astute performances, and I was very impressed with Clarkson when he played against Hibs. I was very impressed, and had it not been for Majowski in form and Duke in form, I'd have probably picked Clarkson as my man of the match. And I'm going to make a point about Duke as well. I'll come back to Clarkson in a minute, but I'm going to make a point about Duke. A lot of people expected Duke to come in, Logan Duke Lopez, expecting him to come in and be a squad player. He's not now. He's not now. For me, he's one of the first names in the team sheet now, because he's been that consistent for Aberdeen so far this year. As for Leighton Clarkson, he's very impressive with him since I touched upon. He's got a cracking volley against Atlanta on Wednesday in the friendly. Yeah, it's a friendly, but terrific volley. Ball came in, and then Clarkson on the volley just smashed it beyond the Atlanta goalkeeper, and a very good goal. And good for Aberdeen to get a win, but ultimately, because of the Aberdeen's affiliation with Atlanta United, it was good to see Aberdeen go over there and get some techniques and tips and see what Aberdeen, but just to see how Aberdeen can learn from an established club in Atlanta United, who are obviously in the MLS, which is a far superior level for Scottish football. So good just to see how that all evolves.
Someone else I've actually quite liked watching for Aberdeen is Hayden Coulson. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's been doing well. A lot of people are quite critical towards Jaden Richardson, but look at the other side. We've got a lot of our joy through Hayden Coulson. Gets up the park a lot. He'll put in a power of work rate. His work ethic's very, very good, and he puts in a good shift for the Dons. And he's been putting in some very good displays of late, and long may that continue, because he's been a very, very good figure for Aberdeen this year. So Yep, here's hoping that can continue moving forward, and here's hoping they can continue churning out some fine performances in Aberdeen shirt.
So, yes or no question, do you think Aberdeen can finish second?
I still think Rangers will have enough. And I'm not just trying to downplay this whole thing. I do think I can't see Giovanni Van Bronckhorst lasting the season, right? And I think Rangers will get a breath of fresh air as a result of that, like they did after Gerrard left. So I think Rangers will just get a bit of oomph about them. I do think I wouldn't even say third's guaranteed, Grib, because Hearts are picking up lately, and I think it is a shootout between Aberdeen and Hearts for third place. I think Aberdeen won't finish lower than fourth, but I do think it's a shootout between Rangers, Hearts, and Aberdeen for second and third, respectively.
I mean, in terms of Hearts, obviously, we've got a lot of players to come back. Do you think that? I mean, obviously, I'm going to be biased here, but do you think Hearts have a better squad than Aberdeen, or is it pretty much the same?
Squad-wise and paper, I think Aberdeen have a better squad. But, as you say, Hearts are getting players coming back, and they're starting to hit their peak again. They're starting to get results. They're starting to kill teams early. And I think we've still got a lot to come from Hearts. And Robbie Neal still admit that. I still think there's a lot to come from Hearts. And I don't think Hearts have shown their true selves yet this season. Same Aberdeen, of course, but from a Hearts point of view, I think European football took too much out of them. And I think the break will do Hearts the world of good.
Gordon McIntosh, good to see you on here, Gordon. Don't think they can afford to pay off Gio, so think he will be there till at least the season end. Personally, I think Hearts have a better chance of finishing second. I'll take that every day of the week. I don't think it'll happen, but I'll take it. Touching on Rangers, you've just mentioned the fact that it looks like Gio Van Bronckhorst will stay. I genuinely am surprised at that. I thought he would have left during this break. Now, listen, it may still happen, but in terms of Rangers, they were disappointing again last week against St Mirren. St Mirren did really well. But I want to touch on certain players for me that I don't think are doing well enough for Rangers. Now, we're touching this earlier on again with Michael last week. For me, I thought Morelos was an absolute joke last week. He doesn't look fit. He doesn't look interested. And that is a major problem for Van Bronckhorst.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, when you look at it from Van Bronckhorst's perspective, is it all down to him? I don't know, because I think it's the same old Rangers. I think Rangers are a carbon copy, because people look at Rangers and go, same players, same failures. As much as Van Bronckhorst is trying to change things, I don't think he's been given the backing in order to. The money's there at Rangers. I mean, the AGM is coming up. The Rangers revenue results gave us the perfect synopsis to tell us that. I mean, what was it? Rangers in profit of. It was something. We were speaking big money here. We were speaking. What was it? 5 million, 10 million profit.
At least, yeah.
Some going. I think Van Bronckhorst has enough credibility in the bank from the Europa League final. And I think that's what keeps him going. I think if he gets back with 6 or 7 players in January, I think Rangers could be a more fiercer competition. It's the question of, does he get back?
Someone that's taking a lot.
If he doesn't get backed, Rangers fans are going to be having the same issues that they are now. They're going to be asking the question of, does Van Bronckhorst go, or do people look at Van Bronckhorst hasn't been backed? Is it the players' fault? And Rangers being Rangers and fans, they'll say Van Bronckhorst is to take full responsibility for this. And for me, I'm not saying Van Bronckhorst has been perfect for Rangers, but what I'm saying is that he's not been backed. And I couldn't understand for 1 minute pundits coming out and saying Van Bronckhorst had to lessen his waters a little bit because of how much money Gerrard had to spend to stop 10 in a row. Nonsense.
I agree. I mean, someone that's taken a lot of stick, you go on Twitter, you go on different podcasts and stuff, and you hear someone that's taken a lot of stick is Ross Wilson. I mean, how culpable is he in all of this?
I think he's got a bigger part to play here than Van Bronckhorst does. And I think his role is. I don't listen to all the Rangers podcasts or whatever have you, or listen, I look at what Ross Wilson does on Twitter, but I think Ross Wilson needs to take a portion of responsibility here because it's simply not been good enough. And I made the point in this show actually that Ross Wilson comes with a good pedigree in the game. He's done well at Falkirk, where he worked very well under Yogi Hughes. Southampton, he got a lot of credibility. And that kind of earned him his move to Rangers. And then Rangers, they put a lot of eggs into one basket under Gerrard because they knew that season was defining. They knew if Celtic won 10, it was going to be crash gates for Rangers. They knew it was going to be absolute optimism as far as Rangers Football Club were concerned. Gordon McIntosh hire, do you think they will should? I think they should somewhere else because they've got a goal scorer in Shoak, right? Don't get me wrong here, Graham. Morelos tries harder. If you compare the two, Morelos is a better striker. But at exactly the same time, the Rangers fans and Rangers players really want a player in the dressing room that's sulking all the time, having an ego about him, and just having that overall agenda over everybody else. No, not one player is bigger or better than Rangers Football Club, right? And ultimately, if Alfredo Morelos is becoming to be a nuisance in the changing room, Rangers have to do something about it.
See, for me, now, it seems to me that they don't have enough other options. For me, as an outsider looking in, Ryan Kent is playing every week and delivering very little. I mean, how much of an issue is he just now?
I've made the point to you. I think he's tit for tat. He'll be brilliant in periods and then go completely off the rails for the remainder. And this is where it gets a little bit concerning as far as I'm concerned because, yeah, there is periods in which you look at and say it could be improved. And yeah, there absolutely is room for improvement. And I mean, he's delivered some very good moments for Rangers, but exactly at the same time, he had a hefty price tag on him, which unless he starts delivering, will go down the drain.
So we're obviously assuming, because it sounds like he is, that Van Bronckhorst is staying. They're 9 points behind Celtic. Now, Rangers' next 2 games after the
Sorry,
break.
Graham. Sorry, can I make a point about Morelos and Kent before you go on? I think Morelos' price tag is, people are saying, fuck it, rubbish. 8 for Morelos, 5 for Kent.
Do you know what's funny? Probably maybe 3 or 4 years ago, there was a lot of talk about Morelos going for 15, 20 million. But now, you wouldn't get anywhere near that for him.
I think between 5 and 8 for Morelos, let's say between 3 to 5 for Ryan Kent.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be far off, to be honest. I think I was looking at Rangers' next 2 games after the break. They've got Hibs at home and Aberdeen away. Now, that's
2 sticky games.
Yeah, that's 2 very difficult games. If Rangers were to drop points in both those games, I mean, Van Bronckhorst surely he would be under serious pressure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. I mean, he's under serious pressure already after dropping points and losing at St Johnstone and obviously drawing at St Mirren. I mean, with all due respect to St Mirren and St Johnstone, St Johnstone are picking up, St Johnstone are improving in the levels they were at last season, but exactly at the same time, this is Rangers Football Club we're on about here. And Rangers... Oh, sorry. Rangers should be heavily expected to go and be competing with a side like St Johnstone. They should be going to Perth and be winning consistently there. Same as St Mirren. Rangers should be expected to go to St Mirren and win that as well. And when you look at that, it's incredibly frustrating and incredibly disappointing for Rangers.
This is something that I've mentioned as well. Now, see if you look at Celtic, for example. Celtic have been behind the last couple of games, but they're a team that I just expect will win. With Rangers, I don't really get that feeling. Gordon McIntosh says, doubt you get 5 for either. I kind of agree with that. I mean, for me, Morelos last week was embarrassing. Again, I've just mentioned the fact he didn't look fit. But the worrying thing for me, he didn't look interested. And as a fan, I'm not a Rangers fan, but as a fan, if I see my player not looking interested, I would be furious. And his touch was poor. He didn't look like he wanted the ball. He just looked very, very poor. And for me, and I've said again, I think his nose is out of joint. I think since Cholak came in, Cholak's the first choice, rightly so, because he's got 14 goals this season. But I think Morelos' nose is out of joint because he's not the first choice anymore. So yeah, I think Morelos has been very, very poor. Ryan Kent, I liked him when he was at Liverpool. He maybe didn't play a lot, but I thought he was a guy that could take the ball, that could take people on. Now, I think he's quite easy to play against. He always tends to try and go inside then outside. I mean, last week he wins the penalty. It was poor play for the St Mirren boy, a bit clumsy. But again, Kent flatters to the sea for me, but he starts every week. I think that shows how poor Rangers are. Rabbi Matondo, for me, I don't think he's particular Rangers quality. Scott Wright, if he's the answer, what's the question? But I just think, if you look for me, you look at Celtic the last couple of games that they've been behind, for example, Dave, right? If you're with me. Celtic have been behind the last couple of games. Celtic, for me, are a team that I don't expect to lose, even if they're behind. Rangers, they've been behind the last couple of games against St Mirren and against St Johnstone. I didn't expect to win those games. And that's the big, big thing. Celtic I expect to win, Rangers I don't.
Celtic are very fast starters in games. They always have been under Ange Postecoglou. And that's exactly why Celtic have managed to get the wins they've managed to get. It's because they've been consistent in both boxes, they've been dominant in both boxes. But exactly the same time as well, Graham, they've also had the ability, Celtic, where they've been able to go and score with an opening 15, 20 minutes in some games, and it's allowed them a bit of composure to see the game out, or have a bit of character to make sure they were getting the win. Whilst Rangers, you lack that, right? I don't think there's any leaders in the Rangers dressing room. James Tavernier is captain, right? But he's not a leader. There's no leaders in that Rangers team, and that's exactly where they go wrong. But at the same time, if they go a goal behind the Paddock, they try different options, doesn't work, and yeah, a lot just goes horribly wrong for them. And you look at Rangers and just say to yourself, yeah, it's nowhere near the level they're perceived to have got to or been at. So they've got a lot of improvements to make, and it's not going tremendously well for Rangers right now. And yeah, do what because whenever they score first, it adds the pressure on opposition sides. And that's all fine and well them saying that. But at exactly the same time, you look at it and say Rangers do not apply too much pressure on opposition sides early doors in games. And that's the frustrating factor if you were a Rangers supporter.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on to this topic. And one of the topics that I've got at the bottom of the screen, you can see there, is who's been the biggest surprise in terms of teams this season. Now, this could be either teams that haven't been great that have surprised you, or teams that have been very good that have surprised you. For me, my top pick at the moment is Livingston. They're sitting fourth in the league. I think David Martindale, I've said this numerous times, is probably the most underrated managers in the league. Last week against Hearts, they were maybe a little bit unfortunate not to get all 3 points, but I think Livingston have been absolutely superb this season, and I potentially think they could easily finish fourth this season.
I'm going to go for St Mirren because St Mirren haven't been firing on all cylinders. No, sorry, pardon me, I'll take that back. Sorry. I'll go for St Mirren because St Mirren have been brilliant so far this season. Sorry. They beat Celtic at the St Mirren Park comfortably. The drew with Rangers last week. And the problem has been more away from home than it has been in Paisley. But at Paisley, it's a fortress. Teams are finding it hard to go to Paisley and get constant results. And yeah, when you look at St Mirren, everybody's tipped to go down to start of the season. They've kind of dwelled away from that now. If St Mirren can make top 6, that'd be a tremendous season for them because Jim Goodwin, I'll make a note about Goodwin, he tried time and time again to get St Mirren to the top 6 and it just faltered or petered out in the last forsaken moment. And when you look at Jim Goodwin, he's got the capabilities in the room in order to go and change that and be in a better position. So I think if you're a good one, you're looking at that and saying he can do well and be in a position where St Mirren can be in a position where they can compete now. I think St Mirren have a better balance across the park this season. He's taken a few more midfielders. He's got rid of the dead wood, Stephen Robinson. The boy Jacob Ayunga has been a tremendous signing for St Mirren. Alex Grievous came on a game for the Buddies, and St Mirren have a better collectiveness about them, and ultimately they're seeing results as a result of that.
I'll let you take this one, Dave, because Feed the Bear says, I would say Aberdeen, considering how bad they've been.
Yeah, I mean they've been good at home and bad away. That's ultimately what's came down to. Ultimately, Aberdeen have had enough about them in home games to see the job through. I would, if you were to ask me a report card about Aberdeen's season, I would say probably a C or a D, because if you look at home games, you're seeing B minus or C. You look at away games, you're seeing C minus or D. And from an Aberdeen point of view, they can look at that and say room for improvement. But hey, Aberdeen are currently sitting in third, and I don't think anybody will be complaining about that whatsoever within Aberdeen colours.
Definitely. Just touching on St Mirren, I mean, they obviously lost Jamie McGrath, who I think was probably one of their best players. I think you're absolutely right. I think Ayunga's been great. I thought he caused Rangers numerous problems last week. For me, I don't know if it's a surprise or not, but for me, Curtis Main has actually been decent for St Mirren.
Yeah, well, I forgot about him. Yeah, he's came on again big time this season for the Buddies, and he has been a huge player for the Buddies. And as I'm saying, St Mirren have a. If you told me a young Grieve and Main would be getting St Mirren at the top six, people would be going, "You're speaking rubbish. How much points have you had, man?" But they've been brilliant. They've been absolutely superb, and it's helped St Mirren in terms of the results that they've got, and also the performances that they've got, and that's all fine and well. And if they could keep that going, St Mirren will be in a really good position. St Mirren for me has parallels to Ross County, where Ross County had a few outstanding players in the forward lines, and it helped them in terms of reaching their targets. And St Mirren are doing exactly the same, and they have the same or similar calibre of player as Ross County did.
I think it might have been a couple of seasons ago. Tony Fitzpatrick said that St Mirren could be a top 6 team. And I think a lot of folk, myself included, thought, nah, no chance. But this season, there is every chance that could happen.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, St Mirren's been a very well-run club, because St Mirren, season upon season, are people's predictions to go down. And that's probably because of their calibre of club and all that kind of stuff. But season upon season, they deliver the goods. They're here or they're here, there, or everywhere. And they've always had a good tradition, St Mirren. They've always had a good identity, and that always seems to help them. And I always seem to think they punch above their weight to an extent, but at the same time, they're never within the bottom two every season. And everybody's tipped every season to be in the bottom two, which is testament to the work that goes on there.
Yeah, I want to go back to my pick, Livingston. Again, I just think David Martindale gets so much out of that team. We talk about him every week on this show, but Joe Nubley again last week I thought was tremendous. I mean, they know what they are. They're a hard-working team. They have players that maybe aren't the best players in the world, but they get the best out of them. And I just think Livingston this season could have a very, very good season. They are already, but I think they could have a very, very good season.
For me, Joe Nubley, Ayunga, and Rio Hitati at Celtic are the top 3 players for me in the Premiership this season. Nubley, he's just been brilliant. But also, across the park, they've been good as well. Fitzwater's scored a few goals. If Fitzwater's been solid at the back for Livy. Bruce Anderson's been scoring a few goals lately. They seem to have gotten the goalkeeping problem sorted out, because that seemed to be a bit of an issue at the beginning of the season. The Drew Ibrox against Rangers, and yeah, Rangers were a little bit understaffed, but irrespective of a draw at Ibrox with some goal. And let's be honest, Rangers need to score in the 92nd minute because, and that would have been Livingston's first victory in a long time in Govan. So that's testament to the work that's going on. Livingston are low on budget, Livingston have the lowest resources in the league. But what they have is a good collectiveness, they're a strong togetherness. If they can continue that moving forward, they're going to be in a strong position come the end of the season.
A really good question here, actually, from Feed the Bear, who says, you have mentioned your top two end of season. Who do you think will get relegated? Well, that's a tough one, but I'm going to say it now. I think United will go down, and I think Kill will be second bottom.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think United will go down and Kill will be second bottom.
I mean, if you look at, we will touch on the Championship shortly, but I think Kilmarnock, for me, looking at the teams in the Championship just now, I think Kilmarnock could lose to any of those teams in the Championship. But I think United at the moment, now I did say I thought against Aberdeen, they did play some decent stuff. They had chances, but I just don't think they've got enough quality to stay in the league.
Well, let's be honest. I would think there would be a huge rehaul at United if they went down. Because you've got Aziz Behic, who's away at the World Cup with Australia. You've got Dylan Levitt, who's away at the World Cup with Wales. They'll know play Scottish Championship football. And I don't think Wales and Australia, respectively, will be looking at that going, go and beat our bro 5-0. It'll be absolutely fine, lads. Go and score a hat trick, and it'll be fine. You'll get called up in the international squad. Nah, that's not how it works. And I can see there being changes. I can see players leaving. Stephen Fletcher had been interested. I want to see if he would stay. Charlie Mulgrew's been called up as a player coach. But just, you never know. Depending on what happens, we're obviously Liam Fox. That could be a stepping stone to being a manager. There's a lot that can go on. And it's going to be an interesting one to say the least. By the way, on Dundee United, great to see they're holding their women's game against Aberdeen at Tannadice next Sunday, and it's going to be in the telly as well. So that's going to be pretty good going from a United point of view. Good that the game's at Tannadice, so hats off to the club for that. But yeah, back to the men's team, and when you look at the club, they've got a strong team, strong on paper. On the park, no, there's an eye. There's an individuality about Dundee United at this precise moment in time, and United won't accept it.
I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but one of the biggest things for me that I see in that United side is something they have to sort out for me is the goalkeeping situation. They've not got a decent goalkeeper. Mark Birighitti for me isn't good enough. I thought it was obviously his mistake that led to the penalty last week. I think that goalkeeping situation needs to get sorted, and I cannot understand for the life of me why they didn't go for Xander Clark when they had the chance.
It's the biggest dilemma in every United fans' year. Don't wake up at Christmas morning going, yeah, great that I've got this for Christmas. Great that I've got a FIFA case for Christmas, but I want Xander Clark, please, Santa. Please. I'm not wanting Birighitti or Eriksson. No, not good enough. I want Xander Clark, please, Santa.
I just don't understand whether they go and get him. I'm delighted that Hearts have got him, although he's not played yet. But I just don't understand whether they go and get him.
But if he'll play for Hearts next year, Xander Clark. That's ultimately what this deal's all about.
100%. Feed the Bear says, I would agree with United, but Ross County could fight out with Killie for the second bottom place. Would you agree with that? Do you think County could be in trouble?
They're in a precarious position right now. But Mark is renowned for getting sides out of dangerous situations. And people forget, Ross County had a tremendous week before the World Cup. They went and beat St Mirren at home, who are, as we've touched upon, have been going really, really well. And then they went to Easter Road and beat Hibs, when that would have been a coupon buster. Because nobody would have expected Ross County to go to Hibs and win. That was some good. And let's not forget as well, they gave Celtic a run for their money last Saturday as well. Celtic had to work really, really hard to win. And that's testament to the improvement going on at Ross County. One thing that I think will put Ross County in a better position is Roy McGregor seems to back his managers in January. I think Marky Mackay will be given funds to go and improve the situation at County. And if things don't improve, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens after that.
You've actually you've touched on Hibs, and I don't want to have a laugh at their expense, but it's not been a great run so far for Lee Johnson. Now, I don't want to say it's under pressure because it's still very early days, but they were a very poor run. And obviously, last week they were beaten by Kilmarnock. Personally, I don't think it was a penalty. I thought it was a poor decision for the referee. But what is going wrong with Hibs at the moment? Because they're sitting in 8th position. They're not on a great run. I mean, what does Lee Johnson need to change?
I think Lee Johnson needs to change the philosophy, but also I can see Ryan Porteous going to be in January. I think he'll go to the English Championship Club in January. I don't know which one, of course, but I can see Ryan Porteous going to the English Championship Club in January. And then, for me, I think Hibs still heavily rely on Martin Boyle. You don't have enough in the forward areas. Kucheravi isn't good enough. Henderson isn't good enough. And when Martin Boyle's out the game, Hibs get far too passive. I seen that first time at Pittodrie 2 Fridays ago. And when you look at Hibs, I think I'm not saying for 1 minute Hibs are a one-man team, but you look at the chances Hibs had in the first half at Pittodrie in particular, where they had Porteous lined up, getting in good positions, and Kucheravi had some good one-on-ones, and Henderson had some good one-on-ones, and Joel Newell had a couple of chances. But Hibs just had nobody to put them away. And that's the thing. I think if Hibs are going to get found out, it's because it will be because of the fact they haven't scored enough goals or haven't done enough in front of goal this year. And they need to improve that. I think they need a centre forward, and Martin Boyle's a better wide player, but they need a good number 9. Martin Boyle's playing that centre forward position primarily because they've nobody to score goals.
Do you think when he comes back, whenever he comes back, that Kevin Nisbet will be a massive player for them?
Yeah, I think so, because as I touched upon, Hibs simply need goals. Now, Kevin Nisbet can be described as a lazy player by Hibs fans, but I think Hibs did miss Kevin Nisbet when he was getting his injury, and when he started getting injured. I think Hibs missed him massively. Because yes, he's a lazy player, but I think he offers I think he also offers something different to the way Hibs play as well. I think he offers a variability and adaptability about his play that I think suits Hibs to a T. And I think Hibs kind of missed that when he wasn't in action. So I think when you look at it from Nisbet's point of view, once he comes back, that's only going to be a good thing for Hibs, and hopefully he's back before Christmas.
I think Elias Merkins has had more new hairstyles than he has had goals for Hibs, and that sums it up for me. I do want to touch on my team Hearts because I'm hosting, so I can do what I want, and Michael's not here. But the one thing I do want to touch on is Robin Nielsen again, because, again, after the game last week against Livingston, I saw a lot of Hearts fans saying Robbie has to go, football's terrible, it's awful to watch. Now, I'm going to disagree. Now, I thought last week was it's not a great point. The way we got it was because we were a man down, we were a goal down, we got it in the 97th minute. I was happy enough with the point. I think we're in a very good position just now. You know, we're sitting 5th. We're only a few points off Aberdeen. I think Nielsen's done a very, very good job. Now, I've said this numerous times before that Robin Nielsen is always one defeat away from people saying he should be sacked. I completely disagree. But I think Robbie has done a very good job with the fact that we've got so many injuries, the fact that we've had the European football, we played Thursday, Sunday. I think he's done a great job. But it's still going to be up there that so many Hearts fans just won't take to Robin Nielsen. I mean, I don't know what else Robin Nielsen has to do. Maybe win a trophy, I don't know. But the stick that Robin Nielsen took after that game last week for not beating Livingston at home, again, I thought was disrespectful. And I just think there's too many Hearts fans that still, after all this time, just will not take to Robin Nielsen. You're on mute, mate.
We've not heard that one for a while, have we? You're on mute, mate. No. I mean, Robbie Nielsen, Hearts have made significant improvements under Robbie since obviously Hearts not exactly qualify for the Conference League knockout stages. I mean, once after the RFS game, I would say after they won that was an important game for Hearts. And I think Hearts got a lot of momentum out of that game. And then after that game, it was obviously domestic action with the exception of a couple of games remaining, or the last game against Istanbul. But I mean, after that, you could tell that confidence had dwindled a little bit, but the overall atmosphere in the team was still quite high. There was still a good camaraderie within the team. And that was shown because Hearts had got some good results under their belt, and Otway were consistent and had a lot of momentum in weak times. And I think that was a good thing because it did allow Hearts to go and get some solid results, and Otway put Hearts back in a good position because there was a guy touched on it. Aberdeen and Hibs hadn't played European action because obviously they're past misdemeanors, and they'd faltered whilst Hearts were leggy in European action and been battling for third. And for me, that's a huge confidence booster for your Hearts. But for Robbie Nielsen, yeah, Robbie Nielsen could win the Hearts, win the league with Hearts. Yet Hearts fans would still want him out the door.
I completely agree. And the fact is, we're only 4 points off Aberdeen. And I've just looked at the Hearts fixtures actually for after the break. We've got 4 games. We've got Kilmarnock at home, Dundee United away, St Johnstone away, and then Hibs at home. Now, obviously, in between that, Aberdeen have got to play Celtic and Rangers. So Aberdeen have got difficult games to come up. Hearts could potentially get third place in the next few weeks, which is massive. And I think we've still got the likes of Halkett to come back. Rowles is now suspended after last week, but we've got Boyce to come back, Benumi to come back. You've got other players to come back as well, Stephen Humphries to come back. We've got a lot of players to come back. I think Robin Nielsen's done a very, very good job. Somebody that I've mentioned numerous times on the show as well, Toby Civic, has actually stepped up to the plate recently and done very well. So I think what Robbie's done so far is very good. And the other thing I want to say as well, the financial gain that we've got from these European games has been fantastic. We're in a very good position financially. That gives us a chance to go and sign players in January. I think, again, that has been huge for Hearts.
On Toby Sibbick, he's not every Hearts fan's cup of tea. But what you get with Toby Sibbick is a player that wants to develop. That I think he's developing at the right time for Hearts because he got off to a slow start. There's no doubt in that whatsoever from a Hearts point of view. He's came in and made the centre-half position his own in recent games. And yeah, he's now a mainstay in the Hearts side, provided he continues his fine performances. If he does that, he's going to be in a very strong position for Hearts. And they'll be looking at this and saying, if he can continue the fine run they've been on, there's no doubt in the progress he can make. People forget he's only 20-year-old, but then there goes your problem. You're relying on a 20-year-old player to get you out of jail, so to speak, in European terms and also domestically as well. And this is where the likes you need a Craig Halkett character, a player that's going to get you through games, a player that's going to get you into good positions, a player that's going to be a leader. And Hearts quite simply hadn't had that. Robbie had to change one or two things. He's done that. And I'm interested to see how Hearts evolve defensively after Christmas because when you look at Hearts, there's room for improvement. But at the same time, I think the roots are slowly growing again.
Yeah, I think at some point we had Lewis Nielsen and Toby Civic playing at the back. They wouldn't have expected to play as many games as they have. Gordon McIntosh says, where do you think they should spend to improve Hearts? I think there's absolutely no doubt we need another centre-half. We will get players back. We'll get Kingsley back, Halkett back. Rowles is obviously back now. He's going to World Cup, but I think we need another centre-back. We need another striker as well for me because we are too reliant on Lauren Shankland, who's been great, but we're too reliant on him. We are missing Stephen Humphries a little bit. I think he's been a big miss. And again, for me, you look at that game against Rangers last week. Now, I don't want to be harsh, but you're bringing on Ewan Henderson at Ibrox. Ewan Henderson's not good enough. Ewan Henderson's a championship striker for me. So I think we need another striker in there. And I would like to see another creative midfielder in there. I think, again, Dave quite rightly talks about Hibs rely too much on Martin Boyle. I think Hearts are very reliant on Barry Mackay. And for me recently, Barry Mackay's been massively off form. I don't know what you think, Dave, where you think Hearts should be spending money in January.
I think there should be. I think what positions? Because Lawrence Shank's been good. Do you think Lawrence Shank needs another striker beside him for competition? Or do you think Lawrence Shank's fine as it is?
I think he could do with somebody else beside him. I think if he's got a Liam Boyce or a Stephen Humphries to do kind of the donkey work, if you want to put it that way, and just let Shanklin do his penalty box stuff, I think that would be a massive help. But he's having to do too much outside the box, and that's not his game.
Well, I'd get a striker in. I would probably get a number 10 in. When I say number 10, I mean attacking midfielder. I'd probably get an extra defender in, and then probably a full-back in as well.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. So let's now leave the Premiership and let's go to, for me, as I've said numerous times before, the best league in Scotland. It is the Championship. There are games this weekend. Tomorrow, we've got Cove Rangers against Morton. We've got Dundee against Hamilton. We've got Inverness against the league leaders, Ayr United. We've got Partick Thistle, who I'll touch on shortly, against Arbroath. And we've got Wraith Rovers against Queen's Park. Now, I've put in the wee chat here about Ayr United and one of the players for me. Ayr United are on 28 points, Morton on 25, Dundee on 25, Queen's Park on 24, Wraith on 22, Inverness on 22, Partick on 20, Cove on 17, Arbroath on 12, and propping up the league is Hamilton on 11. Now, I've asked the question at the bottom of the screen here, is Dipo Akinyemi the best player in the Championship? He's scored 13 goals this season already. Dave, you've probably seen him a lot more than I have. Dipo Akinyemi, best player in the Championship?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's just been absolutely brilliant for Ayr this year. 13 goals, and the Ayr side is some going. And I'm expecting him to add to that tomorrow at Cali, because Cali have a lot of injuries just now. And I'm expecting Ayr to go up at Inverness tomorrow by a couple of goals. So I'm expecting Akinyemi to at least score one tomorrow. But yeah, Akinyemi has been very, very good. When he played at Arbroath a couple of weeks ago, I think Arbroath put too much focus on Akinyemi. And I never got to see Akinyemi fully, right? But I know the quality of player he is, because Arbroath doubled up whenever Akinyemi had the ball. Whenever Josh, and it allowed Josh Mullen or Bradley Young, the other strikers, that opportunity or that freedom to go forward. And that's because of how good a player Dipo is for Ayr United. But it's not just that as well. He's the best player in the Championship, undoubtedly this season. But at exactly the same time, Ayr have improved so much under Lee Bally. They're very strong defensively. Midfield-wise, yeah, they've got a lot more street-wise players about them now. Then the goals that Akinyemi scored speaks for itself, and the work that Josh Smullen and Bradley Young does can't be undermined either, as far as I'm concerned.
Last season, the biggest talking point in the Championship was Arbroath, and could they sustain a title challenge, which they almost did right till the end? Do you think Ayr United can sustain this? And, could Ayr United be playing Premier League football next season potentially?
I think the Premier League, before I answer that question, I think the Premier League would welcome Ayr United, because they're such a traditional club within Scottish football. They've got an old school ground as well. And I think it would bring a freshness to the Scottish Premiership, because season upon season, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, but you see like a Dundee coming up, coming down, coming up, coming down, coming up. You see a Partick Thistle yo-yo, right? Maybe they've kind of faded away recently, but Partick Thistle have been a bit of a yo-yo. Who else? Well, maybe not so much now, but the Dunfermline used to be a massive club. Falkirk used to be a massive club. And we've not had much of an opportunity to see smaller clubs. Hamilton was one. Who else? You could argue St Mirren and St Johnstone were one, but both those clubs have been consistent enough in the Premiership for ages. As for Ayr, They've not been in the Scottish Premiership since 1978. And anytime opposition sides in the Premiership go to Somerset Park, they love it. And I think teams would love going to Ayr. I mean, I think Ayr are the best team in the Championship at the moment. And that's some going because there is some good sides. Morton are decent as well. And for me, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if it's an Ayr Morton 1-2. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if it's Ayr and Morton for the title. Because Morton, I was making a point to people about this. I've yet to see Morton in the flesh, but Morton aren't an excellent side, but they've got a very good manager and they've got a very good team stability about them. They've got a very, very good grounding about them as well. And I think that's some good because you look at the likes of Dundee, who will have a lot of dead wood, and that's been their problem. Yeah, Dundee picked up a lot lately when they got a really good result last weekend against Rafe, but yeah, I think when you look at that, there's room for improvement. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Ayr go up come the end of the season.
Do you know, I find Dipo Akinyemi's career quite fascinating. So he's played for Potters Bar Town, Stevenage, Aldershot, St Neots, Dulwich Hamlet, St Albans City, Billericay Town, Dulwich Hamlet again, Bishop Stortford, Dulwich Hamlet, Chestnut on loan, Braintree Town, Welling United, and now he's at Ayr. His best goal-scoring season was at Welling United, where he scored 28 goals in 62. He's already got 13 goals for Ayr United. I mean, what level do you see Dipo Akinyemi reaching? Could he potentially play in the Premier League in Scotland?
100%. And there's no doubt in that because you look at the transformation to him going to Somerset Park, and he's banging them in. We're not even at Christmas yet. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the Championship's fascinating. You know, Morton 25 points, Dundee 25 points. I want to look at Partick Thistle. Now, they've lost their last 5 games, conceding 16 goals and scoring 5. They lost 2-1 to Morton last week. Ian McCall, very experienced manager. But the funny thing is, they're only 8 points off the top. So running results gets them back in there. What do you think the issues are at Partick just now? Because it's not quite going quite as well as it was at the start of the season for them.
I think it's injuries. I think it's quite simple as injuries because if Partick had their fully fit squad, Partick are probably one of the better teams in the Championship. They were everybody's tip at the start of the season to go back up to the Premiership. But they haven't delivered on that front. And Partick fans are going into tomorrow's game against Arbroath fearing the worst. And that's a bad sign to have. And if Partick can beat tomorrow, that's 7 straight defeats for McCall. And ultimately, I can see a bit of booing towards Ian McCall. I don't know if you've paid much attention to what's been going on at the club, Graham, but this whole takeover thing with, let me get this right, because it's Partick Thistle United or something along those lines. You can tell how I haven't done my homework in this and how I'm very much not really interested in the whole thing. But yes, what are they called? If you hold fire, I will tell you what exactly it's called. Right, the Partick Thistle takeover is there'll be something along the lines of. We'll come back to it in a minute, Graham. On you go. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, it would sound very strange to say that if Partick get beat tomorrow, would Ian McCall be under pressure? Which does sound harsh, but as you just mentioned there, 6 defeats in the bounce would be a massive disappointment.
But be 7 tomorrow if I both win, which makes it even worse. Which will make it even worse. And when you look at it from that point of view, you're playing the Arbroath side that quite simply aren't exactly firing on all cylinders now. I read a stat, well, probably Bob will put a thing up on Monday. Arbroath have only conceded 27 goals or something along those lines. And they're one of the lowest when it comes to that. But they simply don't score enough goals. And that's what Arbroath have been renowned for. That's what Dick Campbell's sides have been renowned for as well. They've been renowned for not conceding a lot, but not scoring at the same time. But that's the pressures of part-time football, because Arbroath and Cove are easily as competitive as the other sides in the Championship, but maybe don't have the resources to go and bring in a striker that a Dundee would, or a Raith Rovers would, or a Partick Thistle would, and that's the whole thing. But yeah, the takeover was let's go and have a look. It was it's the majority shareholding from Three Black Cats to the Partick Thistle Football Club Trust has been formally approved by the SFA. What do you think about that, Graham?
I honestly don't know. I think this is something that needs to get sorted pretty quickly because I think it maybe is putting the minds of Partick a little bit. The league form maybe has taken a bit of a dive because of this. I think this is something that needs to get sorted.
Well, see, from the supporters' point of view, nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, and as a fan, you just want to know what's happening at your club, don't you?
And when you don't know what's going on at your club behind the scenes, I mean, the Colin Weir, what a legacy he left for that club. What a stalwart for that football club. But Colin Weir's no longer with us, sadly. And it's time that Partick moved on from that. And they quite simply haven't. And the whole shenanigans could be messy yet. I don't think Partick Thistle have hit rock bottom with this yet.
See, that's disappointing because I always think of Partick Thistle as a Premier League side, and to see them in the situation they're in is disappointing, to be honest. Because for me, they're a Premier League side for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely, and it's an incredibly disappointing and frustrating thing for Partick. Partick quite simply need a win. Arbroath tomorrow is the perfect opportunity for the Jags to go and get that win. Because if Partick don't win tomorrow, tensions will rise at Fairhill.
Gordon McIntosh makes a great point here. I was thinking this as well. Such a shame Arbroath couldn't keep the same form as last year. I mean, do you think that disappointment of last season has played in their minds a little bit?
I'd say it would. Yeah, I'd say it has. I mean, they haven't been able to keep the same caliber of player. Chris Hamilton and Nicky Lowe has been big misses. William Henderson's been a big miss. William Henderson's now at Falkirk because it was the line of full-time football. New boys away. Jack Hamilton's away. Jack Hamilton's doing well at the Hartlepool just now. And when you look at it, Arbroath didn't exactly go all gun-ho last season, but they brought in a lot of full-time players who ultimately were never going to go part-time unless there was an opportunity of a lucrative job. I mean, Arbroath are ultimately the best part-time club in Scotland at the moment. But at exactly the same time, it's hard learning in full-time footballers to go part-time unless they're coming to the tail end of their career. And that's what makes part-time football, or in a Arbroath situation, a different vibe. That's what makes it lucrative and unique, because not a lot of people are expecting you to go into part-time football from a full-time environment unless things have deteriorated elsewhere. So you're kind of relying on players that have been released from full-time clubs, or players that quite simply just want a hobby, which is football, alongside what they do on a Monday to Friday.
Long way off yet, but at some point Dick Campbell will leave Arbroath. What kind of legacy do you think he will leave?
Well, he's Scotland's longest serving manager now after the news about Jim McInally this week. And I think Dick Campbell, it's an interesting one, because I don't want to start quoting, but I think he'll be away within the next 12 months. But I'm not going to give you a time frame, because I think people would be on me if I told you a time frame.
I just think he's going to be a huge miss for Scottish football. He's a massive character. Him and his twin brother as well.
What a legacy him and the Pink have left Arbroath, though. The fact that they've went from the bottom league to the horizon of Premiership football within 4 or 5 years is some going. They've done it the right way as well. They've not done it like the Gretna way, where they've pumped in loads of money. They've done things sporadically and always improved time to time.
I completely agree. I think they've done a fantastic job, and I think Arbroath will be I think they're a very good club. They are a very good club, and I think once Dick Campbell leaves, it's going to be hard to replace him. I don't think you can replace a guy like Dick Campbell, to be honest.
No, especially with the character he is, the contacts he has, the entertainment he provides, and all that. And let's be honest, I think the biggest question in my head is, do Arbroath have a plan B if Dick Campbell goes? Because I don't think they do. I don't think the board do. And I think if Arbroath were to build on the success that Dick has, they would quite simply need a full-time manager coming in. And it's hard to get a part-time manager that's been as successful as a Dick Campbell. They would need a full-time manager, or there would have to be some sort of adjustment or reinforcement one way or another.
Were you surprised at the news about Jim McInally that came out during the week?
From the outside looking in, you were, but having read newspaper reports, I'm not, because it appeared to be as though he was a little bit drained after getting beat by Montrose just a week or so ago. And I think it was because Jim McInally probably thought I don't think Jim McInally wanted a third successive relegation on his CV or a second successive relegation on his CV. And I can understand Jim's decisions for moving on, but from the outside looking in, it was a massive surprise.
So let's leave the Championship and let's go on to tomorrow, where Scotland rugby team are going to play Argentina. After a disappointing 31-23 defeat to New Zealand last week, Scotland were actually ahead for quite a bit of that game. Gregor Townsend, still a lot of Scotland fans think he's under pressure. I think tomorrow is a big opportunity for him at Murrayfield to beat Argentina. Dave, what have you made of Scotland so far? And I mean, me and Michael were on the show last week when Scotland were playing. Disappointed that they couldn't hold on against New Zealand.
Yeah. I don't agree with the vibes that Townsend should be sacked, because Townsend's came a long way away with the Scotland side. And I mean, rugby is one of those sports that you can't exactly just keep sacking managers. You can't just keep letting people go away, because let's be honest, football is far superior to rugby. If you get sacked in football, or if you're a chairman sacking managers in football, you kind of have opportunities where you can get 2 or 3 or 4 people in to take over the team. In rugby, there's not that many opportunities to do the exact same thing, because it's totally different in rugby, and that's the fine thing about it. When you look at rugby, it's an oval shaped ball. It's 15 against 15, and ultimately rugby is a fun and active sport.
Yeah, Scotland have lost to Australia, New Zealand. We have beaten Fiji, which was again, it wasn't a great performance, but I think the win was massively needed. How important do you think it is tomorrow for Scotland that they just win? Or do they need a performance as well as that?
Yeah, I think the win's the most important thing. I mean, if Scotland can get that springboard before the Six Nations, I think that'd be a positive from Gregor Townsend's point of view, because he's done some good work with the Scottish rugby team. And there could be improvements, 100%. People will be first to acknowledge that, and so will Gregor, but at exactly the same time, you look at rugby just now, and it's hard to call who the big teams are. New Zealand's a big team, and for Scotland to be not disgrace themselves, against a side like New Zealand is pretty good going. But they'll be striving for better and striving for not perfection, but striving for a better standard. But when you look at it, I mean, from a Scotland point of view, if they can go win tomorrow, it gives Scotland that much needed confidence that they need prior to going on to obviously the games in the new year, because they are massive games, and there's a lot riding on the games in the year, because if Scotland could quite simply go and get the job done tomorrow, we go into the new year with so much confidence, and obviously, if we can do that, there's there's obviously a lot more what going right about ourselves. And here's hoping we can get a win tomorrow and kickstart ourselves for heading into 2023.
Yeah, I mean, do you think Scotland have got a chance in the Six Nations?
I think they do, because ultimately England's a winnable game, Wales are a winnable game, and Ireland's winnable. They're all as good as each other, I think. France have kind of went off the boil, and Italy are Italy. So from Scotland's point of view, they've got every chance, but it's about winning the battles. It's about making sure they take great courage in the games provided, and it's about making sure that they can go into games and be competitive and be in a good frame of mind. So from a Scotland point of view, they've got a lot going right, and one may that continue, and hopefully get a victory tomorrow that can give them a much needed confidence boost at the year. What time's kick off tomorrow?
3:15.
Oh, okay. So I won't be able to watch it, unfortunately, because I'll be in Barkstayers every locals in the Highland League tomorrow.
That should be a decent game, actually. I am going to touch the World Cup very, very shortly. We've got 15 minutes left, but I just want to touch on something.
Can I speak about boxing? Sorry.
That's what I was going to go on to, because I want to ask you something as well. Now, I think the one fight that most folk want to see is Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury. Now, we spoke on the show last week, and a few folk, I think Feed the Bear actually mentioned this as well, that they thought that Tyson Fury would absolutely hammer AJ. I agree, but it doesn't seem like that fight's going to happen. Is that a disappointment? Would you like to see that fight happen?
Yeah, I would. I would like to see the fight happen, just to see what Tyson Fury is all about, but also to see what Anthony Joshua is all about, because Tyson Fury is an opportunity for him to reignite his career to an extent. But for Anthony Joshua, it's an opportunity to get another decent knockout and progress his career even further, because Anthony Joshua's been getting some fairly impressive fights recently. Must have a good agent. This is an opportunity for him to go and get a good win against somebody the caliber of Tyson Fury, who maybe hasn't hit the heights he hasn't previously, but because of his problems and his issues, he'll be eager to obviously come back and bounce back very, very well. So from his point of view, he'll look at that and say to himself, here's hoping there's not any repercussions as a result of this.
I actually listened to something a few days ago. It was quite interesting. It was Tyson Fury actually talking, and he spoke about the fact that he has thought about retiring. He wants to retire, but it's like there's something in his head that says that I can't. I need to go back to boxing as well. And if something comes up, he would come back. And I think it's that. I think it's that AJ fight that he's looking for. But the way it sounds like, there's a lot of stuff going on about AJ's camp are not getting back to Tyson Fury's camp, and there's so much stuff in that up in the air. But I think it's the fight that every British boxing fan wants to see.
Yeah, no, totally, and that's the thing about it. I mean, it's everybody that everybody wants to see. Ultimately, it's two professional boxers. It's two boxers that have served the profession with distinction. It's two boxers that are just going from step to step. It's two boxers that have worked wonders in the sport. And two, let's be honest, if they want to play the game or want to play the fight, it would be a terrific occasion for boxing. It would very much put boxing on the map. So here's hoping they stick by it and there's no consequences for either or.
Do you think that's a fight that's more than likely going to happen in America, or would that, could they hold that somewhere in the UK?
I think they'd more hold it in America, because I think America attracts a different level of attendance in comparison to UK. I mean, it'd be great if they had it at like Wembley or something, but I very much doubt it would be. I just hope there's some sort of resolution one way or another.
I generally think
I'm looking forward to being at Aberdeen next Saturday, the beach ballroom for a couple of fights there. There's a couple of big fights there next Saturday night, so I'm looking forward to those.
Who's on the bill for that?
Yeah, Dean Sunderland. He's playing Lewis Green. That'll be a good one, because obviously Dean Sunderland's a very popular figure here in Aberdeen. He's obviously had some good fights himself, and when you look at Sunderland, He's had some decent clashes. This will be a Commonwealth title clash, so should be a good fight between Dean Sutherland and Lewis Green. Billy Stewart, he's from Banff, just beside where I stay. So he'll be in action against Gary Ducey. That's an exciting Scottish title showdown. This is next Saturday evening, Maynard. And then a boy I played football with, he actually listens to the show sometimes. I don't know if you'll be listening tonight, but he actually, because he used to play football with me, it's Gregor McPherson, highly anticipated professional debut for Gregor. He plays the highly talented Declan Girardi, and that's going to be an interesting fight as well, because it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in that, and if he can come out victorious in that, Gregor, I think that'll be a perfect start to his professional career, because I know Gregor very well. I've been to his gym a few times to do some boxing, and Gregor's got high aspirations, and if your dad was the coach, Graham, would you be happy with that? Because that's who Gregor's coach is. His dad's Tommy. His coach, Tommy puts in a high standard of sessions for us whenever we do gym sessions at his boxing gym, and Gregor's in the best position possible. I'm led to believe that Gregor did some stuff with Josh Taylor a few weeks ago down in Dundee.
I think I would feel a lot more pressure if one of my family was coaching me.
Yeah, well, there's a father and son bond when it comes to, obviously, Gregor. So here's hoping Gregor can go get the job done in front of his hometown. And I'm led to believe there's a high number of people from Bod Box Gym in Aberdeen that's attending, including myself. But I better make an admiration here, Graham. Because I'll be covering football probably next Saturday, I was invited to go and have dinner before the boxing. And I had to go and admit to Gregor's dad that I'll likely have a game next Saturday. So with that in mind, I've turned down the offer of free dinner. Well, not free dinner, but it cost £100, but dinner was involved as part of the deal.
I'll take it. I'll do anything for food, me. Well, maybe within reason, I should say, within reason. I mean, as someone who has never boxed in my life, you've obviously done a bit of boxing yourself. I mean, how intense is a lesson in boxing, for example?
I don't think it's as intense as what people make it out to be, if I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I mean, it is intense, and it is a little bit more pressurised in comparison to other sports. But I mean, I've came from somewhere where I was extremely unfit to go to the gym initially, and then I kind of heard about Tommy and Gregor's gym through just people I knew within the game, and Tommy went and shared something on social media. I kind of inquired to Tommy. I was like, Tommy, do you run sessions and all that? And I was speaking to Gregor. And Gregor was telling me all about his gym and all that. And I didn't even realise he had a gym. I knew he had some small thing, but I didn't realise it was as big as it was. And yeah, from then on, to start with, understandably you were struggling, but there's a lot of people there that are either getting a bit on now, but can still box, or still, or have been stocky but have lost weight and have done numerous intensive PR programs. Now, I think the PT sessions, I said PR, I think the PT sessions are more intense than the class sessions, and I think that's the thing about it. But Tommy makes the sessions as fun as possible, and everybody goes to board box, enjoys themselves. Excuse me. There's a range of people that go. There's like youngsters to people my age, and I'm 27. There's 30, 40-year-olds go. We've got a lady, Tanya. I'll not mention her last name, but Tanya, she's 47, and you wouldn't think she's 47. She's one of the fittest people there, right? I spoke to Tommy about this Tanya lady, and Tommy was saying that Tanya did some military training, and then a lot of the people there didn't exactly get on with the coach, and a lot of people have started to go to Tommy's board box class afterwards. By the way, I'm going to give a shout out to board box, because if anybody from Aberdeen wants to go, they're running a Monday, Tuesday, and a Thursday. The Monday classes are 6:30 till 7:30, and Tuesday, Thursday classes are 6 till 8. Two different separate classes for each £6 per class, I may add. And then obviously they're running a class Sunday as well from 10 to 11, and that's just in case. That's just if you didn't go out on a Saturday night. If I ever have a beer on a Saturday game, there's no chance I go, because I've tried going with a beer after a beer on a Saturday a few times, and I've been. So there you go.
I think it's great though, because it sounds like it's for everybody, and that's brilliant to have that as well.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I've enjoyed going to boxing, and I'll be honest with you, it's gave me a different level of confidence. It's gave me a different level of confidence to what would have been attached to beforehand, because I had the confidence before. Obviously, I'd have went to the gym maybe sporadically. I'd have went maybe on a Friday afternoon just to keep in tip-top condition before going out for a beer on the weekend, for example. But I've kind of learnt a bit more about keeping yourself fit consistently because of this. Not that they tell you. It's because I think there's something about the coaches that maintain a level of discipline into your play. And I think that's a good thing, because, for example, I'll go to the gym 4 times a week now. And that's probably because of the work that Tommy and Gregor put in. But not only that, it's not because of the work they put in. It's because I've came from a football background, but I've also came from a background where I've lived in schemes and I've lived in territorial backgrounds where things are tough, and I know to be disciplined in that regard. But this has teach me a different level of discipline, and that's all fine and well. And at the gym, they've got a wee circuit area. They've also got, obviously, punch bags. I was actually winding up Tommy and Gregor today when I was speaking to them, because I was speaking about punch bags for a different specific subject. But yeah, it's a very good gym they've got. It's not it's a gym, but you wouldn't think it's a gym from the outside looking in, because it's run by somebody else. Well, it's run through Tommy and Gregor, sorry, but it's run through I forgot what they're called now, but it used to be run by some Warrior fight company, I'm led to believe. So apologies if I got that horribly wrong, but yeah, they'll just go from strength to strength, and here's hoping they can continue that fine run moving forward. And I was actually speaking to Gregor about how much he does in a working day. Obviously, he's a personal trainer for guys such as myself, but his sessions are 6 in the morning, dinner time, and then before he goes to his bed at night, or on early evening, and that's some going, and that's every day of the week, I may add.
That's fantastic to hear. I mean, we've got a couple of minutes left. I mean, we'll be back next Friday from 5 again. Michael will be back next week. I just want to touch very, very quickly, because on Sunday, the World Cup starts 4 o'clock. Ecuador against Qatar is the first game. Now, I genuinely usually get quite excited for the World Cup and European Championships. I've got to say, I'm not feeling the same level of excitement for this, Dave.
No. There's not a lot of interest. And funnily enough, away from this whole thing, I was actually having a very interesting conversation with my good mate John Bleasdale today, because John was touching upon the fact that Rangers women play Celtic women next Saturday evening. It's great that the game's in Alba and all that, right? But it's at Broadwood, the home of Open Goal Broomhill. And it was a great opportunity to hold the game at Ibrox. And Rangers haven't delivered on that. And that's quite frustrating from a Scottish women's football point of view. I think it's a great opportunity for Scottish women's football to put themselves on the map, because the women's football community have been offended by the LGBT situation in Qatar, and also the human rights and the gay and lesbian situation. This was a great opportunity for the women's football and the clubs to amalgamate, and they've not done that.
Yeah, major disappointment. I mean, maybe when it gets further into the tournament, I might maybe get more involved. But I think the fact that it's in the winter, it's just not a particularly exciting tournament for me.
No, I mean, previous years we've had we've downplayed the whole thing, and it's been turned out into some classic games. But this year, I'm fearing the worst. And there was a thing with a Danish journalist on Tuesday or Wednesday where he was trying to film, and basically the Qatar security guards just says, "You can't do that. No, you're not authorized to film here."
Yeah, I mean, it's just not particularly exciting. But this show has been exciting. So it just remains for me to thank my good friend David for joining me tonight. We will be back next Friday at 5 o'clock. Michael should be back next week. Thank you for all the comments that you've made. We always appreciate them. Thank you for a very, very good show as usual. We will be back next week. And if you are out and about this weekend, do enjoy your weekend. Enjoy any game that you're at, whether it be Championship, Lower League, League One, League Two. And we shall see you next week. Bye-bye.